Deep in the remote wilderness of Canada's Northwest Territories, the South Nahanni River flows 565 kilometers from its headwaters in the Moose Ponds, high in the Mackenzie Mountains, down to its confluence with the Liard River near the village of Nahanni Butte. We are Andrew, Tom, Dennis, David, and myself. While most people paddle the South Nahanni in canoes, we're going to paddle it in packrafts. Each type of watercraft has its pros and cons, and we will experience both the pros and cons of packrafting on this trip. Our adventure begins with a 150-kilometer floatplane ride from Finlayson Lake in Yukon Territory to the Moose Ponds, which form the headwaters of the South Nahanni River, high up in the Mackenzie Mountains of Northwest Territories. We arrive at around 10 o'clock in the evening, just as a rainstorm is breaking up. Mount Wilson looks spectacular in beautiful evening light. We set off the next morning, paddling the length of the Moose Ponds. After about 40 minutes of paddling, we find the beaver dam that holds back the Moose Ponds and cross over it to begin our float on the South Nahanni River proper. Here at the start, the Nahanni flows through shallow, narrow, and twisted channels for the first several kilometers. But it doesn't take long for the river volume to build and begin the so-called rock garden section. This 50-kilometer section of near continuous rapids runs through boulder gardens ranging from Class 1 to Class 3. We make our first camp on a gravel bar alongside the river just before Initiation Rapids. We set off the next morning with Initiation Rapids just around the corner. This was supposed to be a Class 3 rapid, but honestly, we didn't even notice it. Even our little rafts are getting bogged down in the shallow water at times. Finally, we start seeing more significant rapids. Our last day in the rock garden section of the river had the most challenging whitewater of the trip, starting with grayling rapids rated at Class 2 or Class 3. After carefully scouting Sequel Rapid, we found its Class 3++ rating a bit overrated when we ran it on river left, at least in this low water. With the rock garden now behind us, we begin the long 285-kilometer section of relatively slow water to the top of Virginia Falls. Over the next 7 days, we would cover this 285 kilometers with paddling days ranging from 45 to 70 kilometers. This section would test our patience with packrafts on slow water. Slowly, our focus shifted away from dodging boulders. Now our days were about finding the fastest line of current in a slow-moving river, enjoying the mountain scenery, and looking for wildlife. An occasional stretch of Class 1 broke up the monotony at times. In the final 120 kilometers before Virginia Falls, the river became wide and near stagnant. A strong tailwind helped us make 70 kilometers one day, using our paddles to increase our sail area. We slogged through the final 50 kilometers the next day. I was really wishing I had a canoe in this stretch. Virginia Falls is a great place for a layover day. While it rained on our layover day, we made the best of it by unpacking a fresh batch of food that we had cached here, and by hiking out to the rapids above 96-meter Virginia Falls, here flowing at 300 cubic meters per second. A nice portage trail makes getting gear to the bottom of the falls easy, especially with lightweight pack rafts. Our third section of the Nahanni runs 150 kilometers through 4 spectacular canyons, from Virginia Falls to Kraus Hot Springs. We spend a leisurely 7 days in this section to thoroughly enjoy the canyons and side hikes. In the middle of Third Canyon, the river runs through a narrow gap between 200-meter high cliffs called the Gate. A short but steep trail leads to the top. Unfortunately, we found a black bear tearing into one of our Packraft bow bags when we returned to the river, likely attracted to the sunscreen in it. This serves as an important reminder not to leave loaded boats unattended while out on day hikes. Unfortunately, the river valley filled up with forest fire smoke, which scuttled a 3-day backpacking trip up onto the Ram Plateau. So we spent a couple extra nights at Prairie Creek to do some laundry, enjoy some fishing, and to take a hike up Prairie Creek with our pack rafts. We ended up hiking about 7 kilometers up Prairie Creek before packrafting back down, making for a spectacular side trip. We did it! On our final day in the canyon section, we checked in at the Deadman Valley check-in station and then continued downstream through First Canyon. The lower 70 kilometers of the Nahanni River becomes flat and braided as it winds its way from Kraus Hot Springs to the village of Nahanni Butte. From Nahanni Butte, we continue down the Liard River for 43 more kilometers to our final takeout at Lindbergh Landing. We see far more black bear and moose in this section of the river. The Liard River is large and slow, again testing our patience with pack rafts. But finally, after 600 kilometers and 23 days, we take out at Lindbergh Landing, deflate our pack rafts, and head home with new memories of great times spent with friends in the wilderness. Thanks for joining us on our South Nahanni River adventure.